Luke and his family were having a wonderful time in a luxury resort in Thailand, and suddenly a strange kind of wind blows and one of the pages of the book that their mother was reading blown away by the power of the wind and disappeared into a glass window in front of him. She noticed that something terrible was happening as she approached the mirror to grab one of the flight. The glass in front of her was being smashed. Immediately, a dangerous storm like the one she was afraid of. They came to the waves. The shopkeeper didn't even give them a chance to escape. The shopkeeper had a dangerous situation and threw them all over the window. People will try to say it here. Then the dangerous storm will engulf the 5 ruins of Luke's family throughout the flood, and you will see them all. Their mother Mary will cry out in a hopeless voice, holding onto a tree that has never fallen. Don't let her slip through her life like this. When she turned around, Maria heard the sound of one crying out, and when she looked around, it was her first child, Luke, who was being pushed into a dangerous storm. The mother who saw this, she did not give birth to her daughter. She will continue to grab the tree in this rough valley. Then she will play with a little bit of water. Also, the head of her son, Luke, is shaken by the floating objects. Even if they handle worse damage, the mother and child who did not surrender will try to save themselves from the waves that are coming from above. Eventually, the waves will begin to subside. The mother and child will begin to weep in anger and sorrow. Then Mary and Luke will begin to walk in the water before and after them. Maria will forget Luke in front of her daughter while she is crying, but she will see something that will keep her face from falling. Her feet are cut off and her feet are scarred. He even said that she was going to restraint immediately. He stopped her and pointed at her wounds, but he was so frightened that he turned his face to see his mother. She would make Luke walk in front of him and they would continue their journey. When he was tired, they would rest on one of the trees and wait for help. After much protection, 2 locals would arrive at the spot. Mary would cry from the wounds because she was old and could not bear them. Mary would cry from the inside. Now she would travel through the woods and carry her tormentor. Then she would go home. These local residents would carry them to the hospital, but when they were sick, many of their bodies, she would go to the hospital. The man who brought them to the hospital spoke many things to him in a language he did not know. Luke did not understand, but thanked him for what he had done. Tenshu then turns to his mother and sees that no one has any help and calls the doctors. Mary pleads with the doctor to weep and plead for him. I have lost my children's father and my 2 young children. Now she tells Blake that he is the only one left on this earth. When the doctor quietly looks up at Luca and goes back to work, she cleans up her anti-gypsyism and her wounds. After the tsunami, many of the families that were lost are seen rushing to the hospital to look for someone more than the doctors and nurses were able to save. So when she woke up a few moments after the surgery, she had no time to contact the family. Maria was encouraged by the doctor to contact the people who had been wounded. She immediately told him that she had no problem and asked him to tell her to go back to the doctor. He then calls out the name of Luke and goes around the hospital looking for his son. But if he calls for a long time, they can't find him. Then he stops Luke, a patient who lies next to me, so that he stops looking for the missing child. But this patient did not know the missing child, but he stopped Luke to look for the missing child. The defender registers the name of the new child by not forgetting anything. Luke is looking for his children, and instead of looking for a long time, the number of those feeding the hungry children is counted. But he does not know when he will stop complaining. Finally, when he comes in from one of the rooms and begins to call out the names of the children, a girl says, "He was the son of the man who first searched for my son." Luke goes out running and finds his father. They meet and mingle. Luke sees this and rejoices and returns to his mother's room to share his joy with his mother. But as soon as he arrives in the room, the fervor in his face disappears. And his mother's husband was also on the couch. Her daughter cried and screamed, but no one could hear her screaming. They come to bed. When Luke sees this, he tries to defend them, thinking that it is my mother's bed and she will not come back. A nurse will come and take Luke and calm him down and bring him to a trailer for the future children and put him on the t-shirt as a sticker was made for other children. Luke's not being able to do anything. On the other hand, his feelings will hurt a lot. On the other hand, we will see him tired from the accident. Surprisingly, the 2 little children were not seen by Thomas and Saminda. The father and the little girl who was in the hotel, and the little one of the children had left the hotel, and I told him that I would take him out of the water so that he would ask him to take a little water, and he would tell him to come back to his brother, and he would tell him to take it. And he would tell him, He says that we have taken it. No father says that I was not alone when I came here. Then he puts the children in the car that goes to the shelter and says that I entrust them to the woman next to him and says goodbye to the children, that we will soon be back in the shelter. This nun knew that he had to protect families from anything. After a fierce battle, he borrows a mobile phone from someone who can't be found in time. He calls his father. When your phone rings, he takes over the control of the nest. In a distant voice, he says how he and his children are separated and how he understands it. But he leaves the battery, he says, so little. And when the phone is turned off, everyone's heart is touched by Henry. Then the owner of the phone gives him a call again and tells him that you don't want to talk like this. Henriam promises to pick up the phone and stop crying and get them all back to the deceased. On the other hand, the nurse will call Luke and tell him the good news, but his mother's state of health has worsened. Now she is breathing with the help of her mother. When they see this, she is crying. Mary is going to tell him that she is sorry, and she is going to apologize for him. He hugs her and buries his fear, anxiety, and sadness in her arms. At the same time, Henry turns around in the hospital and unravels his wife and son. However, he disappears from one of the hospitals, saying that he has seen them. Finally, he sees something while someone is patiently asking about it. He is a woman who entrusted my children to him. She is happy to have him running and having children. They brought her back to me, but she whispers back to me that she can't go. On the other hand, Thomas and Simon are sitting in the car filled with children, even as they walk away. He has not yet returned to the health clinic. Ever is better. The color of her face is changing. Luke is also afraid inside. His mother asks Mary how her feet were wounded by looking at Luke. He raises Manson and quickly restores him. Then she says to him, "Your feet are fine, it is still red." Mary trusts him and puts him on her mask. Like you, Luke immediately walks with her and asks her to see her because his mother's feet are very hurt. After hearing this, the nurse instantaneous skin care for her. In the other scene, he takes her to the hospital where many nurses are lying down. He brings her to Luke. He takes the opportunity to bring her to the water. He sees him and follows him on the run. At the same time, the little ones Thomas and Simon arrive at the hospital with his children. Simon comes in the urine, and even though his brother Thomas and the driver warn him not to get out of the car, he comes down, and at that moment, Luke arrives at the hospital's entrance. But his father couldn't find Henry in every direction, and he can't see him. But now Luke refuses to accept this separation and begins to scream over and over and over and over and over and over again. He says that his father didn't approve the little brother who had made him get into the lounge, and this time he heard the big brother screamed and looked at him. He gets out of the car and runs to his brother. Luke cries out to Simon and runs to his brothers. All three tears fall on their cheeks. Thomas's eyes return the light of hope. In that moment, their father also comes to them from the midst of the people. They run away and embrace their father together. After a time of great suffering and near death, the whole family is reunited. Luke takes his father and his brothers with Mary, leading them. When Mary leaves the sheep, he begins to believe that she is very sensitive and these people who were eager for him to have a strong desire to live. She is well done and will be returning to her homeland with her tongue, and the story of our film ends here.
Something moves in between. Every step gets loud. Every shadow has a sound. Aniel recaps. Aniel recaps. Aniel recaps. Say it slow, then clap back. Aniel recaps. Aniel recaps. I saw the spark in the edge of your eye. Cold little grin when the truth walks by. Hands in the air, don't reach too fast. One wrong move and it won't last. Say it low, say it clean. Something moves in between. Every step gets loud. Every shadow has a sound. hush, no room for rush.